Interestingly here as well, we've got, so these are the top 2 that came through, but there's also a 4-color rally deck that that had 11 copies of it coming over in the out of the top 100 deck list. So I think if you had to sort of make the top 3, it would be Hardened Scales, Bant Company, and 4-color rally.
Yeah, and when I was thinking about the metagame for this weekend, I imagined that there was going to be a lot of Bant Company and a lot of 4-color rally. The one unexpected thing was Hard Scales kind of came out of nowhere.
Right. Well, that's a Yasova Dragonclaw.
It is.
I have not seen that card very much in Standard. Do you know what role it's serving here?
You know, I'm not 100% sure. It's a nice value creature in Rietzl's deck.
He's just got the 1.
He's just got 1. That's an interesting choice. I would actually like to talk to him about it. I'm not sure what role it's trying to fill in the deck in particular, but it's a nice 1-of. I mean, it works with, definitely works with kind of like the other game plan that he's got going on over here.
Well, I mean,
nice creature to find with Collected Company.
Yeah. He just has the 1.
It's a little unexpected. People don't expect it necessarily, so it could serve a little bit of that purpose too.
All right, here's a nice thing for BBD. He did have the turn 1 Hardened Scales, which is what you really, really want to see out of this deck. It's what makes the deck unfair or more explosive than the rest. But what it doesn't do is, if he doesn't do anything on the second turn, which he didn't, but he does have a turn 3 play and now even a turn 4 play as well. So Mana Gorger Hydra is going to pick up a counter, and then the Avatar of the Resolute, sorry, it's going to pick up 2 counters, is also going to pick up an extra counter here as well, though it does look like Paul may be responding here.
Yeah, nice synergy with the Avatar right there.
Yeah, well, it might be. Paul may be going for a Collected Company to try to find a Reflector Mage here. If he can... Oh, he's just going to Ojitize Command. All right.
So the Hydra gets to keep the counters. In fact, gets more counters because of the command, but the Avatar of the Resolute is gone.
You know, I think BBD will probably live with that. I mean, he does have to live in fear of Reflector Mage here. All right, it looks like we've got our lighting situation sorted out there. So again, apologies for that.
So BBD's starting to run away with this game, actually.
Yes, he is.
Yeah, Dromoka's command right there to take care of Yasova Dragonclaw is very good. This
How about
Hydra
take 9?
Yes, this Hydra is huge. It has trample. Paul needs to bounce this ASAP, or he's going to be dead in a turn.
Yeah, we have seen this happen. The Mana Gorger Hydra, ultimately, you can deal with it, but if you don't, it kills you so quickly. And there's a Reflector Mage to help reset things here for Rietzl. But that problem's not going away.
It's not going away, but he does get to get a lot of tempo in this equation.
I don't, think about it. So BBD plays it again. If he has any other play, then the Hydra's already well on its way to becoming huge again, and bigger than the Reflector Mage. And Paul has to play something. By the time BBD gets to untap and start attacking, that Hydra could easily be, you know, huge again.
Oh, right? Definitely. The nice thing, though, Nissa. All right, so not too scary on this board, but
just a plant.
Yeah, just a plant. But you know, as soon as BBD, well, he A gets to continue making more plants. B, as soon as this keeps developing, it gets a little scarier. The nice thing about Paul's deck is he has 4 copies of Death Mist Raptor. Those are going to be really nice for taking care of those Hydras. At some point, you'll have to block your Death Mist Raptor dies, but he can A, recur them with Den Protector, and B, he can take care of the Hydra at some point. I don't think he has any in his hand right now, though.
So Nissa, of course, puts 2 counters now on all of the creatures, which is pretty rough. I wouldn't be surprised to see Brian just block. No, he's actually going to take the 2. Nissa's going to take the 2 from the Reflector Mage and drop down to 2.
Yeah, I like that. BBD's valuing the creatures he has in play right now. It definitely doesn't kill the Nissa, so he's not under that sort of pressure.
All right, BBD draws his card for the turn. Both of these players are sitting at 8-1 and primed to make a run for top 8, but they have to put together a really nice stretch today. And this is, of course, the first round of the day. Both the players looking to get off to a good start. Okay, here's that Mana Gorger Hydra from before, so we knew about that. Now, BBD can cash in Nissa immediately if he'd like.
Cashing in Nissa, honestly, it depends on what the rest of BBD's hand is. Cashing in Nissa looks pretty nice right here because A, that Hydra's going to be huge. B, the plant's going to be significant.
Like it can attack right now.
Yeah, it can attack right now.
Ooh, wait. What is Paul doing?
Crassus? Yeah.
All right.
Bounding Crassus.
Bounding Krasis.
Crassus.
Card's been pretty impressive to me.
I like that card a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, the thing about the Bant Company list is that the board state, when they pass the turn to you, does not always look the same by the time it's their turn again.
Right.
It's often significantly changed, with Reflector Mage taking out your creatures, Bounding Krasis just being cast, Collected Company just adding 2 threats to the board that weren't there, and you can really play that tempo game.
Something interesting in Rietzl's deck is a lot of the Band Company lists try to play a little bit more flyers.
Yeah, we've seen that lately with like the Sky Spawner version. Now he's not playing that.
He's not
right?
playing that version. I like that version a lot. Oftentimes you're playing against Rally, and Rally's not a great matchup for you. You can't really break through the board against Rally. They just have so many ways to block, and 0-4s, 2-3s, and
then they get them all back.
And then they get them all back, and so having flyers in that situation is really nice. But I do like Paul's list a lot.
Now this is a nice little play here from BBD. He made another plant token, and then he used Dromica's command to fight Jace to make sure that Paul Rietzl didn't get the advantage of having a flip Jace in the next turn or two. And of course that puts 2 +1/+1 counters again, hardened scales, interacting with basically every interaction and card in the deck.
And this is a scenario in which I really like BBD letting the Nissa take 2 points of damage from the Reflector Mage earlier.
A couple turns ago?
Yeah, I really like that, because take a look at this board now. This board is way more threatening. Between Nissa and Hardened Scales, having 1 extra creature out is very significant. When the Nissa really wasn't under danger of dying in that turn.
It looks like the Krasis is going to rumble here. BBD is completely tapped out. He's got a 3/3 Mana Gorger Hydra and a 2/3 plant available for blocks. And he's just going to chump block.
Yeah, I like that block a lot.
I'm assuming that Krasis would attack Nissa there?
Yes, I would think so. No, I like that a lot. You know, and this point he is valuing that Nissa and how valuable it's going to be for the rest of the game. And Mana Gorger Hydra is obviously one of the best creatures he has if it doesn't get bounced.
Yeah,
so
we already saw it at
right.
7/7.
Exactly. The game was almost over a second ago.
Yeah.
So he values that, doesn't want to trade it off. And the plan is, the plan's fine, but gets to keep the Nissa around. And the Krasis would kill the Nissa, in which case, like, forcing a chump does seem pretty good.
All right, there it is, Obzon Falconer. In some ways, the card of the weekend. This was a card that many of the pros were scrambling to get their hands on Friday night. And they did. They found some. And this card, in many ways, acts as a finisher for this deck. It will often send all the other creatures into the air. And in this case, it is going to do exactly that, as Nissa is being minused. And BBD says, are you going to do anything? No? Okay, well, here we go. And once again, that Hydra's back up to 7/7. And now it has flying.
Yeah, no, the Hydra's... Oh, wow, Collected Company?
All right, he needs to hit here. He is facing lethal now.
Yes.
So he's going to need to find a Reflector Mage or something, maybe a Bounding Krasis, just something to keep that Mana Gorger Hydra at bay. And if he doesn't, he's just dead.
So Reflector Mage and Bounding Krasis are the draws he's looking for. I don't think there's literally anything else in his deck that can actually get him out of here.
Well, he's looking at the pile right now. God, that Hydra. Remember, this is the second time he cast it. Like, he already did all this work.
The Hydra gets out of control so quickly.
Yeah.
Hail that Hydra, though.
Man, I just want to play Ultimate Price. Look at BBD's side of board. Like, mow everything down.
There's a Deathmist Raptor. I saw that. Deathmist Raptor doesn't do anything here. It would have been nice earlier when... that Hydra never got... Did the Hydra ever get in at some point? It couldn't have... No. At no point in which it attacked...
he found a Reflector
Mage.
Okay, that is going to keep him alive.
Finding a Jace here too is really nice. When he gets to on tap again, he'll get to Collected Company again. Hopefully find another way to interact with what's going on in this board. The problem though is that Paul right now is doing things to survive, as opposed to really clocking BBD in any significant way. So
now Paul does have 2 copies of Dromica's command in his list also. And there's only the one enchantment there for BBD, right?
Yeah.
So that would be a nice draw for him too.
Yeah, for sure. So Dromoka's Command, excellent way. Like the best way in Standard right now to take care of hardened scales. And if you're playing it in your main deck, lucky for you.
Well, speaking of Dromoka's
Oh,
Command.
look at that.
So BBD is going to fight Jace to shut that off immediately.
I like that a lot.
Yeah, these Dromoka's Commands have been fantastic for BBD. That's the third one of the game for him. He puts Paul down to 6 and has lethal in the air now.
Yeah, and the unfortunate thing for Paul there is he has to correctly chooses to bounce the Hydra because he can't take damage from that Hydra. But that does still mean that the Falconer's in play. So...
Right. Yeah, the trample from the Hydra huge there,
oh, yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Because otherwise he could bounce the Falconer and chump block the Hydra and buy himself a lot of time that way. Or at least another turn.
Yeah, and without this Jace now, Paul is once again looking at a way to bounce that Falconer.
And he doesn't have one. You know, his draw step for the turn was a Deathless Raptor there.
Oh, was it?
Yeah. And we're
I don't think he has
him up.
anything. Yeah, he can't have anything anymore.
All right, well, that's going to do it for game one. That one goes to Braun-Duin early in the morning here, and he's one of the good with hardened scales versus Bant Company.
So taking a look at the player sideboards here, BBD has another Absent Falconer. I actually like the other Absent Falconer. He might be bringing that in.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
We'll pop in on this game
sure.
in a second. Finish your
It looks like it's about to end, actually, in some ways.
It may be. Well, I don't know. There's an Ugin.
It looks pretty good on this board.
Yeah. I think this one might go on
Yeah,
for a while. Holy, how many cards was that?
All of them?
8? That's
Oh,
colorless.
the Sky Spawner's alive, yeah.
Yeah, it's colorless. 3, 6. It was 8. He ended up getting 7 creatures.
You know,
Seth
Ugin
Manfield.
is such a strong card against both Band Company and also Hardened Scales.
Indeed.
It's excellent against both of them because those decks are just overextending. So this might be a good time if you're playing a deck that can prey on those decks that just try to go wide and, you know, commit fully to the board. If you can crank out a quick Ugin, you can just take over the game.
I do love me an Ugin.
I know, I do too.
Yeah.
Big fan.
There is kind of an annoying Eldrazi list floating around, though, that does pretty well against it. I saw Athena Huey yesterday, who was playing a blue version of that deck.
Yes, I've played that version on stream too.
Yeah, she had 5 or 6 creatures out, and her opponent played Ugin, and he couldn't Wrath.
Oh yeah,
He
you're
just
like,
had to
what
say,
do I
"Well,
do?
I'll bolt one
I guess
of
I
your
lose.
things." Yeah, it was really funny. Ugin is awesome. This is game 1 here, by the way, between these two players, and that Ugin was right in time. You see Seth's at 7. He was dead.
Is this the same deck that Chris Fennell was playing?
Yeah.
He was so excited. If you follow Chris Fennell on social media, he was so excited about this deck coming into the weekend.
I know. He started dropping hints about a week and a half ago.
He hyped it up.
But he did the sub-hype.
Oh, yeah.
You know, they're like, I've got this sick tech, and if anybody wants it, secretly
Haven't
message
dropped
me.
a match
Yeah.
yet. Yeah.
But it looks like the deck's legit.
Oh yeah, I like it very much. I think I like it better than the just mono blue version because that's the version I played and it was fine. Ghost Fireblade was obviously great.
Yeah. Wenzel comes from Germany. He'll travel over and play in some of the GPs in the States. Seth plays in
most GPs.
Yeah. You can see he's currently ranked 2nd in the world.
Yeah, and world champion.
He's also a world champion. Yeah. Yep. Seth, kind of a big deal. Well, he does find himself in a not great position here. Looks like Seth is pretty concerned about that Jace, but the threat of Eldrazi Sky Spawner is also real.
Well, the problem here is, and this is when colorless creatures look a little embarrassing against Dugan. You know, he can choose to go up, bolt that Jace, and then following up this Den Protector, I assume is what that is, gets to flip and just between Sky Spawner and Den Protector, Wenzel just gets to kill that Ugin, and you don't. That's not where you want to be.
Exactly.
If this is a Drowner, that's really great, though.
That's huge.
Yes.
He's going to get 2 additional Scions in addition to the one that he already had, and now he can protect his Ugin very well. He can block the Den Protector with the Drowner, and he can even tap down the Sky Spawner if he wants.
I think that's the best possible thing he could have had here.
That's
Otherwise, that
pretty
Ugin was
great.
definitely dead.
Yeah, well, I think he's got a Wandering Fumarole down there that could block the Den Protector. Just a lot riskier,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. And then you lose your Fumarole too. But you're right, I didn't catch
Indeed.
the Fumarole down there.
So he had some options, but it doesn't seem like the best.
Looks like Jace was the draw for Wenzel. Very nice that there's a couple of collected companies in the graveyard, but Seth is kind of at the point of the game where he's just taking over. He's not going to let that Ugin die in any... Yeah. Is it just attacking without flipping?
Is it attacking? What? All right, we're going to head back to the first match in just a second here. I got to see what this
I know,
morph
I need to
is.
know what happens here. Is it possible that this is this might be a Death Raptor? Maybe,
Yes.
yeah. That's what it's got to be.
Absolutely. You can see the very early stages BBD has a hardened scales. We're going to pop down. I just want to see what happens
Yeah.
here. It looks like it's just going to be a chump block and we won't get to find out, so it must be a death miss.
Yeah, it has to be.
Okay.
There's no reason, otherwise Ugin would have just taken
Yeah,
3.
that's good news for Manfield. though,
Yeah.
Right? That
Oh,
means-
he's happy to see that.
Yeah.
But at this point, he knows it's Death Raptor. Like, there's no surprise there, right?
Yeah.
It just, if it were a Den Protector, it would have flipped. It would have gotten back collected company. That would be great.
Yep. All right, and there's that Jace for
Right.
for Wenzel. All right,
And
let's
he
jump
chooses
back to
not.
our-
Yeah, and it makes sense. He chooses not to flick because he wants to play as Jace. So.
Yeah. So we'll go back to our main match and let this one develop as it will. It looks like it's going to go on for a little while with that Ugin, and we've got still the early stages here on our main match.
Good start by both players. This
Yeah.
is exactly where they want to be. Both players presumably bringing in a number of Silk Wraps. They're going to be pretty good here. Especially for Rietzl. Taking care of those Hydras with a Silk Wrap is very nice. He only has 1 in his sideboard, though.
And there it is, Hangerback Walker on turn 2. So things coming off to a quick start here for Braun-Duin. And this is where he's supposed to just be able to outpace what Rietzl's doing, and he has to try to close the door before the collected companies start coming down and kind of wrecking his day.
Rietzl hands looks pretty good, though. There's I see at least a Death Raptor and also a Reflector Mage. So he'll get some tempo for whatever BBD does at some point with a Reflector Mage, and getting Death Mist in there is a great attacker, great blocker, too, against some of the things that BBD's doing. So he gets to be on the offense here a little bit. It's pretty nice. Oh, he just chooses to
play
pass
there
the
for
turn.
Rietzl. Does he have a Bounding Crisis or something?
Yeah, I would assume so. He could have a Drobokus command there too, but if that were the case, he would have just fought the Thopters beforehand. And he doesn't even want to give BBD more tokens, so I assume this has to be Crisis.
Here's land number 3 for Braun-Duin as he's working his way forward here and really starting to develop this board out.
He has all his colors too now, so ooh, very nice.
Uh-oh.
Uh-oh, spaghetti.
Here comes Nissa.
Here comes Nissa. Yeah, so the board for BBD is looking pretty good right now. That's honestly one of the best things he could have done here.
Yeah, because it makes the next turn just downright
It makes
explosive,
it makes
right?
it explosive. We don't know what else is in BBD's hand, but assuming that there's just like 1 or 2 more creatures, this is going to be a great turn. Nissa being up at 4. Paul has no way to threaten it too much. He will be able to flash in the Crisis here, tap down that Hangerback Walker, and next turn he'll be able to attack and put some pressure on that Nissa if this is a Crisis. Yes, it is.
Tap down your plant.
Collected Company is a very nice card
Oh,
for
and this
him.
is huge
Very nice.
here for Paul Rietzl. He actually gets to take down Nissa here. Great sequence
Yeah,
there
that
from
was
Rietzl. And again, going back to what we talked about in game 1, just the board state changes so much. By the time Paul's ready to go to attacks, that looked nothing like what it was when BBD said, your move.
Yeah, that's what I like about the Company deck, for
I
sure.
like that too.
Yeah. Wow, so that was a big swing. Things were looking pretty good for BBD, but yeah, the sequencing by Paul was excellent there, and having Nissa in the yard, you worked through the first one, that's fantastic.
We will note here that Paul did not play land number 4, which means he's on all spells for one thing, but it also means that, he could stumble a little bit here. And while that sequence was very nice, BBD's not going to stop here, right?
Right. Oh, certainly. And BBD's going to keep making land drops. We know he has a Windswept Teeth in hand. You also assume now, if you're BBD, you can be a little worried that Paul just has a couple of collected companies in hand, because if you didn't play a land drop here and just played a Reflector Mage right there, there's a very good chance he's sitting on a couple collected companies. Let's see if we can find a land. I do not think that was it.
In they go.
Yeah, I like Paul taking the aggressive route here, especially in light of missing land drops right here. BBD has just no defense, not really, and if he's able to find another land and a collected company, bounce a couple of things, and maybe... Okay. Being able to play a Den Protector here is pretty nice. He did find a land.
All right. He's
Fantastic.
in business. He's rolling.
Yeah, so Paul's becoming the aggressor in this game. BBD's going to have to put up some good defense here in order to stop some of these attacks. These are big attackers, though. A 3-3, a 3-2 with sort of unblockable, a 2-3. You have Hardened Scale, so if you're able to play...
A couple of creatures.
A couple creatures,
He doesn't need much here.
Yeah. He's kind of flooding.
He is flooding. That was another land off the top.
Yeah, and I know he has another one in hand.
Indeed.
Yeah, losing that Nissa was just very painful.
God, it was huge.
Yeah.
Yeah, if he loses this game, that will certainly have been the turning point. But he's still got a lot of action, it looks like. So he has the Hardened Scales down as well.
Is that a Dromoka's command?
He has one in his hand, yeah.
I think the rest of the cards in his hand are lands.
Oh, no. So he's going to take out the Hidden Dragon Slayer.
Whoa,
is what it
sneaky,
actually was.
sneaky.
Yeah. And then he's got that Hangerback Walker.
Hidden Dragon Slayer, awesome card for him. It's actually in the main deck, I think. Yes, it is.
Is
So
it
having
really?
one, yes, it's in the main deck. That's amazing. So having a Hidden Dragon Slayer in there is actually a really good card for him to have against all the Hardened Scales field today.
Actually, yeah, you're
yeah.
right.
Not a dragon per se, but still takes it down occasionally.
So he replays the Hangerback Walker from before. Remember, he couldn't play it last turn. So meanwhile, Paul continuing to take the aggressive route here.
And this is tricky because BBD can choose to double block that Krasis, try to take it down. Alternatively, he could try to block the Reflector Mage too, but Paul's here with 4 untapped mana. You know he missed a land drop earlier. You can assume that maybe he has a collected company. If he finds a bounce spell in that collected company, your try to take one of those creatures down just goes out the window.
Yeah, I mean, he could just put the plant in front of the Reflector Mage here to have them bounce and just take the 3, which is the lowest risk block here.
Well, for that matter, he just double blocks the Reflector Mage, though, to try to at least take it down.
Well, but then he would end up losing his Hangerback. He might want to keep it around.
Yeah.
I'm saying this is the line he's decided to take. This is just the safest block.
It is
there's
a safe
no
block.
blowout possible there.
It's not that bad for BBD to get a lot of creatures. That's one of the reasons why I don't mind trading, I think, the Hangerback Walker there with a Reflector Mage. But it is going to get counters really fast, especially with Hardened Scales out. So I also like keeping it around.
So BBD falls down to 7 with that block. And here's a face-up Deathness Raptor now for Rietzl, who just passes the turn back to Brian. This is a big draw step. He needs to find heat right here.
He found another land.
Wow.
So brutal.
Yeah, he just cannot quite get over the hump here. He doesn't need much. With the Hardened Scales out, so many of his spells are impactful here, but...
I mean, it's tough. If you take a look at the battlefield, look at all the cards he's actually cast. He's cast a Hardened Scales, a Hangerback Walker, Dromoka's Command, and a Nissa. And a Silk Wrap.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty good, right? Like, he just needs to find more. More of that kind of stuff. Because if you look at Rietzl's side, he's done fine here.
Yeah.
He had a couple of nice sequences, but this is the type of board that you would think that BBD's deck would be able to just overwhelm at some point, but he just can't seem to find the spells to do so. So let's see what Rietzl comes up with here.
Sylvan Advocate.
Another Advocate. Oh, Twin Advocates.
Going aggro. So he's passing the turn.
Yeah, this is, you know, the one thing that BBD does have going for him is that hanger back and the fact that he can just keep adding counters to it. And it's getting out of control already.
Yeah, Paul's definitely looking to find something like a Silk Wrap at this point. The hanger back's really the only thing that's holding back the team, but it is kind of a nightmare if he does attack with like Death Mist Raptor and BBD pops that thing, and now he has 4 flyers if he draws any of his anthems.
Sure. Reflector Mage would be fine here.
Yeah.
Even a Bounding Crisis just to get it out of the way temporarily would probably get the job done.
Yeah, he doesn't even care about the plant.
Right. Just run over the plant. Looks like Paul's lining up predicted blocks here. Yeah, Paul has 1 Silk Wrap in his 75, it looks like. And he's decided to pass a turn yet again.
Yeah, and that Hangerback Walker's getting out of control real fast.
That's 6. What does BBD find this time?
I think it was a land.
Was it really?
Yeah, I think so. I want to hope it wasn't, but I thought it was a land. Oh. He did find something.
Nissa.
Oh, wow.
Sweet. That's not bad.
That's
he gets
insane.
to make a plant here. And start building out his board. All right, so
Paul,
BBD's not quite done
I
yet.
think Paul has a Collected Company in hand. Correct me if I'm wrong. I think
Crisis.
if he does, he could try to go for that here and bounce enough creatures to try to kill BBD.
If he has Collected Company?
Yeah, he could try to do that.
I think it's a Crisis in his hand, though. We'll find out. If he has a Collected Company, I would assume he'll cast it and try to hit.
Yeah, you're right. It is a crisis. Yeah, so the hanger gets tapped. And that thing's out of control.
I mean, it's massive, but,
yeah.
you know, one of the... I'd call it a downside of the Hardened Scales deck is that it doesn't have a way to get rid of its own hanger back easily. And, you know, this is where Reflector Mage is just disgusting. In the meantime, he's going to rumble with everybody.
I really like this attack.
And is this lethal? Block, 2, 4, 6, 8. Yeah, he's just completely dead with unless he had something. And he didn't. We knew he had a couple of lands in hand. And Paul Rietzl is going to take down game number 2 and even up this match.
Yeah, I really like the sequence. I really like the sequence from Rietzl there too, tapping the hanger back and there we see Rietzl running to the...
Oh, you saw him running?
I just saw him running out there.
Running by our commentary booth, yeah. So quick restroom break there for Rietzl. But let's jump over to Wenzel Krautmann versus Seth Manfield. It looks like, whoa, Wenzel won that game.
Wow, that's...
He beat the Ugin.
Wow. He looked like he was in awful shape that game.
That did not look good. We saw him get 7 for 1.
Yeah.
To start things off.
Then we saw,
he won that game.
Look, there's a Death Mist Raptor. So yeah, that was definitely a Death Mist Raptor earlier, and I'm very impressed. I
am too.
Not sure how he won, but good for him.
All right. Well, looks like Manfield's doing a much better job of just being ahead already in this game.
Yeah, this board looks really good for Manfield.
He's getting aggro too. He's going to hit for 10 here. Boom. Puts you to 2, Wenzel. And with Seth at 18, he doesn't care about taking any damage on the other side.
I don't know, especially with a Fumarole on Seth's side of the battlefield. There's
he
not a lot.
He must not be able to activate it, right? Because he would have just killed him there if he could.
Yeah, you're right. He only has one.
One blue.
One blue, yeah.
Okay.
Nice thing, though, is he does have Team of the Spirit Dragon, so he gets to... all right.
Gain some life
Gain some life here. Oh, Spawning Bed?
Spawning Bed.
I didn't see that one. There you go. That's enough. The lands that this deck plays, the blue-red Eldrazi.
That was a handshake, Gabby, which leads me to believe that our graphic may be wrong.
Oh, indeed it is.
Yeah.
All right, that explains why we couldn't figure out how he won.
Yeah, okay, so that makes more sense. Because it looked like he
had
it pretty well locked up. I thought, wow, like Wenzel must have gone like company.
Yeah, that's when you start trying to theorize, like, well, if you could stack the top of your deck to make it as best as possible, what could you have possibly drawn to get you out of that situation?
And like, I have a pretty good imagination, and I couldn't think of one off the top of my head there against that Ugin, but apparently there wasn't one. So apologies for that. Makes more sense.
The blue-red Eldrazi mid-range deck gets to play a lot of really interesting lands. Between Spawning Bed is excellent in the deck. Fumarole is pretty nice. Tomb of the Spirit Dragon is a sweet one. You don't see it often, but it actually ends up mattering a lot when you're playing these decks where you're just trying to beat down and race your opponent in some ways. Being able to gain like 3 life at any given time. I mean, assuming that you have 3 creatures in play, but you get a lot with that deck. You make a lot of scions. Interesting thing with BBD's list, and I guess this is probably true with a lot of the Hardened Scales deck. He has 4 Valorous stances in his deck. So against Rietzl's deck, it's not great because you can't kill anything, not really. But something that you can do is if you ever have one of those hangerback walkers that get huge, and this is something he could do in a different matchup, not this one, is just use that Valorous stance to blow up that hangerback walker for 9 Thopters or whatever you want.
His own.
Yeah, and then he has Nissa and just pump it.
Yeah, that's one of the few ways he can get that job done.
I've heard some dream Hardened Scales starts involve fighting Ailey when you have a hangerback walker that's getting out of control.
That's pretty sweet.
Yeah, and you fight it with Dromoka's command, blow it up, play Nissa minus her, and get like 10 power on the board or whatever it may be.
Just to be clear on that last match, Seth won game 1 and game 2, so he's won that match. Again, apologies for the graphical error there. And we're underway here in game number 3.
A little awkward mana here for BBD fetching. Oh, wow. All right, yeah, it actually all turned out fine. He wanted to make sure he get white with his hand, and he wasn't going to play a creature this turn anyway, so fetching that Canopy Vista was not a problem, especially when his play was just double Hardened Scales. So was I in the booth with you yesterday when we saw start from someone with double Hardened Scales, and it was just...
That did happen.
Yeah. Well, the game was done like two turns later.
It must have been with Luis. I've seen a couple of double Hardened Scale starts. They kind of didn't do that well. It was like they just needed something to make it work. Yeah. I mean, the problem with Hardened Scale is that it doesn't do anything.
That's
right?
true.
Like you have to back it up with spells, and since that's taking the slot of other cards that could be doing that, it does get a little bit precarious when you get multiples.
Yeah.
But as we'll see here, this Mana Gorger Hydra is going to get huge. But honestly, I don't think that's enough for BBD. Given what Paul Rietzl, the type of cards that Paul Rietzl has, where he can Bounding Crisis to tap it, or he can Reflector Mage to bounce it, just one massive threat usually doesn't get the job done against Bant Company.
Well, right now, any spell casts is 3 counters on the Hydra. So the unfortunate thing, though, is like Paul needs to continue either tapping or bouncing or doing something to the Hydra, because doesn't matter. BBD is going to replay this a bunch of times, and it's going to be continuously huge.
Activate Chase. Get some looting going on.
The nice thing here for Paul is he has so many of his spells are instant speed. He doesn't have to pump the Hydra this turn. So, I mean, you don't know what's in BBD's hand, and you can assume that you're going to take some damage from the Hydra at some point, but at least he doesn't have to contribute to the growing Hydra right now. Unless he has a Reflector Mage, in which case he'll just bounce it.
Well, he might not. If he has one in his hand.
He does?
Yes.
Oh, so he'll just actually save this for later.
He might save it for later.
Right.
Yeah, and if he has multiples, he might not, right? Yeah, so he's just going to fire it off right now just to set BBD back a turn. But he knows that Mana Gorger Hydra will be an issue down the line still, because BBD can play it in another turn here. By the way, Reflector Mage. Yeah. That card is sweet. Here's Silk Wrap, so at least BBD had something else to do with this turn here. He's going to take down Jace with that, take a couple of damage from Reflector Mage as Rietzl plays land number 4.
So...
And no follow-up play. This signals a collected company for the most part.
BBD's line, though, it signals a little bit of weakness right there.
Oh,
wow.
There was the setup
That
from
was
Rietzl.
brutal.
That was gross. Ojutai's command counters the Hydra on the way back down. And once again, you see the weakness to the double hardened scales draw. The potential's very high, but since those two cards, you know, that would have been creatures or other spells are just hardened scales, now BBD has no board state to go along with them. Anything he draws is going to be amazing, but it's just going to be one amazing
Right,
thing.
exactly. No, there was, I feel like Paul can smell blood in the water right there because BBD just casting Silk Wrap right there to take care of the Jace. That Jace is not very threatening at that point. It wasn't close to flipping, not just yet. It didn't have anything in the graveyard to flashback really. So not developing his board in that spot means he doesn't really have any other creatures, and then he can't cast a Hydra. And now look at what's going on here.
Look at Rietzl go.
Yeah.
All his spells do things, I'll tell you that.
I actually think BBD has double Dromoka's command in hand and no creatures in play.
Yeah? Yeah, this one's going to be over in a turn here if BBD doesn't find... I don't even know. I mean, even like Nissa or something like that doesn't really do great work here. Ooh, no land drop there from Rietzl. He really wanted to hit that to get that advocate online, but that doesn't mean he drew a spell. Yeah.
He would need to go
Rietzl's
he would need to have a couple of endless ones for like 2 to make each one of them a 4/4, and then make a land drop and Nissa, and then make each one of them a 5/5, and then start to block somehow. I mean,
yikes.
I mean, it's not good. Another Reflector Agent. Wow.
He knows he can't get punished for this,
Yeah,
so
maybe
Rietzl's just going to extend, and this should do it. That was a Obs on Falconer, I believe, off the top, but I don't think it matters.
BBD's just going to extend the hand here. He can't win.
No.
Especially, other than the fact that Paul has lethal in many ways, if he draws a land, then it's super lethal. So
super lethal. Wow.
It's better than
that
just
regular.
It's better than regular lethal.
I know. I can tell because it's super lethal. All right, BBD's going to go ahead and play his Falconer, but does this get the job done? I mean, even with double
he just Reflector Mages it.
He can only play one. Oh, he has a Reflector.
He has a Reflector Mage. Boom. Bye.
And that does it. Paul Rietzl wins the match 2-1, improves to 9-1. Watch out. He's got a good deck, and he's a great pilot. Paul Rietzl, the Hall of Famer. We may be seeing him make a run for the top 8. We'll be keeping an eye on that as we move forward. BBD, look, I think he showed us some of the really good things about the Hardened Scales deck, and I think he showed us some of the weaknesses of the Hardened Scales deck. You know, you take on that extra burden of playing the card Hardened Scales, which does nothing on its own,
right,
to get that extra power from all of your other cards, but it makes those draws very finicky.
Yeah.
Like, he would have killed to have just one Hardened Scales, but another creature rather than the second Hardened Scales.
Yeah, if his hand involved like
would have been sweet.
Endless ones and things like that, even Servant of the Scales, like they would have been pretty good right there. Yesterday when I was talking to Luis in the booth, I was asking him if anybody had theorized if you could run as many Hardened Scales in your deck as you could for this deck, how many would you run? And the answer was 7 to 8.
Just to try to guarantee
because
that you
I think
have it
it's
on
so
turn 1?
important that you have it in turn 1, but it's so clunky when you have
I would never play that deck. I would never play a deck that had 7 to 8 cards that didn't do anything in it, or that were strictly enablers, you know? That's insane.
Yeah,
7 to 8, huh?
Yeah, I mean, I think it speaks miles to how important it is to the deck's functionality. And like I said, we've seen the deck function just fine in many other matchups, but sometimes, you have Servant of the Scale, 1/1, pass the turn.
Yeah. No, yeah, that's true.
And it's
like
so
the
clunky.
deck without it is much worse.
Hangerback Walker for 1. Go.
All right, let's take a look at Taylor Spain. Taylor, and he's playing against Mark Jacobson. These were 2 of our 5 9-0s coming over from day 1. And these 2 gentlemen are right now in game 3 and trying to stay undefeated.
Very nice lands by Taylor. I thought I should point out. I approve.
You like those lands?
Yeah, I think they're pretty.
Oh, God.
You don't like them?
No, I hate those.
What? What are your favorite lands?
Beta Basics.
All right, those are really nice.
I like the unhinged ones.
All right,
The other full art ones from the.
I like those too.
Those ones with that brown
I
frame
like
on them.
them. They look like paintings.
with bad frames.
Kind of, yeah.
No, I know a lot of people love those ones.
Yeah.
I don't begrudge them.
Man, this board is complicated. So Mark Jacobson, I don't.
That is a pile of creatures for Tyler Spain, and Mark has a lot of creatures too.
So there's so many
this is the same
counters.
matchup too, isn't it? This is the flying version.
Yeah,
of
this
the
is the
Band
flying
Company,
version of
but
the. I like the flying version of the Band Company deck. Like I told you, I've played this deck and I've played it against Rally, and oftentimes you're like, I'm never gonna attack on the ground. Oh, you're playing Rally. Now I'm just dead. So having the Eldrazi Sky Spawners and having other ways to break through the air is really nice and significant. Unfortunately, here for Taylor, yeah, all those creatures have flying, so.
So Abzan Falconer takes it down there for Mark Jacobson.
Abzan Falconer is great. We've seen it be.
It's our finisher.
It's a finisher, yeah, which you would never say about a 3/2.
No, about a 2/3, yeah.
Oh yeah, it's a 2/3. You're right.
I don't think I've ever seen anybody activate it. All right, that's going to do it here from round 10 from Houston. Hello there, welcome back to the booth here in Houston. It's a beautiful day outside. We had a nice walk about a mile from the hotel to get here, but it's beautiful.